First of all, yeah. There's also another experiment you can reference that isn't, what was it? The Leszczynski experiment. The other one occurred in 2016. Researchers at Harvard Medical School built a giant 2 by 2 foot Petri dish called the megaplate. This is the microbial evolutionary growth area, to literally watch evolution happen spatially. So they started with a bacterium. They waited for random mutations to occur, and the result was a resistant strain. The setup was they filled the plates with seaweed-derived jelly, agar, mixed in different concentrations of antibiotics. The outer edges had 0 antibiotics moving inwards. The doses increased 10 by 100 to eventually 1,000, enough to instantly kill normal bacteria. The observation, they introduced normal E. coli to the outer edges. The bacteria quickly filled these 0 antibiotic zones until they hit the boundary of 10 times dose. Then they stopped, stalled by the drug. Within days, random genetic mutations occurred in a few individual cells at the boundary, making them slightly resistant. You can see these specific mutant cells sprout new branches of growth that rapidly spread into the toxic zone. This repeated at every single boundary line until the bacteria fully adapted to survive the 1,000 times lethal dose in just 11 days.
Yeah, I'm familiar. If you actually look up you can just Google this if you like. You can look up, did the antibiotic resistance predate the invention of antibiotics? And the answer to that is yes. And sometimes what happens is there's different strains that do different things. But what happens is, if I'm not mistaken, with this specific strain, they did it again through degradation, so that wouldn't be evolution. What happened, think of it like this. The bacteria have arms. The antibiotic are handcuffs. Normally, with normal bacteria, the antibiotics comes in, they handcuff all of the bacteria, take them to jail, and unalive them, right? But in every million bacteria, in every millionth generation or something, there is a bacteria that's born without any arms. So the antibiotic can attach to it. But the antibiotic, so then they're the only ones that's allowed to reproduce, so they don't have any arms, basically. So they do it through degradation. And the antibiotic resistance predated the invention of antibiotics, so that's not an example of evolution. The antibiotic resistance was here first.
There is no evidence I'm seeing here that they had any pre-existing resistance to antibiotics.
All right,
everything was unalived up until a few of them, and it was only when there was a random mutation that was beneficial enough to allow them to survive it that the thing started to endure.
I'll help you out with your search engine. If you actually look in the permafrost, and they actually, if I'm not mistaken, it might be the ITSE. I might be confused about the man, but it's caveman.
About permafrost?
Because when you said that there's no evidence for it, I want to help you with your search engine, because that's just
I'm looking directly at the megaplate. I'm not trying to look at anything else. I'm looking at the results of this.
Right, I understand, but if
hang on a sec.
If the resistance predated it,
hang on, guy, Jesus, thank you. This is an experiment. We want to remain within the bounds of this experiment. There is no permafrost involved here. We don't need to add additional variables. The observation here is there was a mutation. It turned out to be beneficial, and within 11 days, a bacteria had successfully colonized the plate. Previously, This wasn't happening. This is evolution. There was an environmental stressor that was preventing it from growing. It mutated, it adapted, not by design, not by intention, but by doing what just about everything on the planet does, by randomizing itself, by not copying itself properly, by having slight differences. And the slight difference was enough to lead on to other generations of bigger differences until eventually you had a resistant strain. And we see this in bacteria all the time.
Right, and I'm familiar with it. That's why I know you don't want to go outside the paper, but this was before, or this was after the paper, so you're not going to find it in it, that the mutation caused degradation. Like I said, and I gave you the example of them losing their arms. And
nothing here about degradation.
Well, it is. You could like this is why I'm trying to take you outside, but you don't want to go outside, which I understand because it's
No,
not going
no,
to help you.
this is
The
randomization. This isn't.
antibiotic resistance, brother, predated the invention of antibiotics, so it could not have evolved from it.
Okay. So how do you predate something that doesn't exist?
There you go. Exactly.
That's not. That's not how an environmental. That's not how an environmental stressor works.
I know, brother, but this is a simple fact, and you're allowed to look this up. I'm not lying about it. The method, like I said, for the way the antibiotic causes the resistance predated it. And you can look this up. They found it in permafrost, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the Itsy caveman where they took the gut bacteria that he had and then bombarded it with antibiotics after they revived it and found that the resistance was there, meaning that the resistance predated the antibiotic.
So what you're saying is there is a pre-existing version of a different bacteria that happened to have resistance to a particular antibiotic.
So it could not have evolved from it, could it?
This is not that bacteria. This is a bacteria that did not have a previous resistance.
It's using the same method.
It developed a resistance through randomization. This is why we operate in single controlled experiments. We don't need to go to another strain of bacteria because it's not this bacteria. And this bacteria is the one you're studying.
It is degradation because once they put them back into the normal population,
not degradation.
It was
brother. Mutation.
Okay, but the mutation caused degradation, and when you put them back into the normal population of bacteria, they are inferior.
The bacteria
not superior.
Did not lose anything.
Yes, they did.
It merely mutated.
That's not true.
It is true.
No, it's not true, brother. I knew exactly what you're just looking this up probably for the first time, and I've told you I'm already aware of it, just like you wasn't aware that the resistance predated it.
The word degradation. I understand that degradation is a loss of information.
Right.
There is no loss of information. There is merely change through mutation.
That's just not true, brother. That's not true at all.
It is true.
That's not
true.
So,
how did this one that wasn't in the permafrost go from having absolutely no resistance to an antibiotic to having resistance to an antibiotic 1,000 times stronger? Yeah. And that doesn't really matter. It's just how did it give resistance to something that was previously deadly? Yeah.
So like I said, I use the analogy of arms. It's actually I can't think of the scientific term they have, but the receptor points that the antibiotics attach to degraded and they can't attach to it anymore. So it would be the same as if you lose your arms, you're now resistant to handcuffs. Look how much you've evolved.
I'm just looking at what the change in the bacteria was. In the normal state, the antibiotic binds perfectly with the FOIA enzyme, paralyzing it. The mutation, a single letter change in the DNA, altered the shape of the FOIA enzyme just enough so the antibiotic can no longer grab onto it. The result...
antibiotic can attach to it.
Got it!
The key, the antibiotic, would no longer fit in the lock, but the enzyme could still do its job for the bacteria. Thus, the drug became useless. I understand that degradation is a loss of information.
Right.
There is no loss of information. There is merely change through mutation.
Got it!
So, just a single random mutation changed a letter in DNA, and the next thing you know, this bacteria is no longer susceptible to this particular medication.
Right. Come on, brother. You just explained exactly what I said.
That's mutation. Oh. It changed a single letter. There was no degradation.
Yes.
Thus, the drug became useless.
Got it!
There is no loss involved here.
There was, because it's, again, when you put them back into the regular population of bacteria, they're inferior. They get outbred. Okay, if it didn't lose any information, brother, it should be identically the same.
It changed its shape. Okay. What is losing information about the change of the shape?
Okay, just answer me this, and then I'll leave it alone. If it didn't degrade and it only gained information, Then why is it
I
inferior
never
when
said
I
it
haven't got
gained.
it out?
Stop using gain and degradation.
Well, that's
Change
yeah. We don't want
is
it to
not
say it.
gain and it's not degradation.
Okay, so then how are they inferior when you put them back into the normal population? If all
There's
they did
nothing
was add new
here.
information, then they should be
There's
superior,
nothing
not
here
inferior.
that says it's inferior in any way. You're just adding that information. Now, would you like to reference that information, and
Let's
I'll
see if
take it on board?
Yeah, I'm not actually around. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find it.
That's fine.
The paper
Right.
is Fitness and Cost and
Ooh.
Reversal of Resistance, Class Review, Anderson and Livin in 1999.
Back on what I went to look up. Yeah. So the answer is no. This particular bacteria was not as good at dividing as the original non-resistant ancestor. So this is the initial penalty or survival over speed. When the bacteria mutated to survive the highest doses of antibiotics, the 1000x zone, they had to compromise on their internal machinery, the pump problem. To pump out the antibiotic, the bacteria had to constantly run their upgraded influx pumps. This required a massive amount of cellular energy, ATP, because they were burning too much fuel just trying to survive. They had far less energy left over to replicate their DNA and divide. Then we have the metabolic, I can't even say words. Then they had the metabolic problem. As mentioned, with mutations in the gene like ion, the bacteria drastically slowed down its growth rate. If you put these 1000x resistant mutants into the Petri dish without any antibiotics alongside the original, the normal bacteria would easily outcompete and outdivide them. The mutants had traded efficiency for armor.
There you go. That was what my claim was. Thank you, brother.
No, that wasn't, because it's
Excuse
just
me.
gained.
You just gave the definition of degradation. Are you kidding me?
It gained. It improved its pump system. I
Inferior
never
when
said
I
it
haven't
gained.
got it out.
Got him.
It used more energy. It was a mutation
Yeah.
that with normal situation would have been outgrown. But because this particular changed, mutated version had changed its internal materials, it was able to survive in the 1000 times solution of antibiotics. But as soon as you took away the only advantage it had, the ability to survive in that very specific environment, it was then outcompeted by its prior version, which isn't surprising. Nothing here that says it's inferior in any way. You're just adding that information. Now, would you like to reference that information, and I'll take it on board?
Yeah.
Got him.
Well, host, I'm going to leave it here. I do appreciate you being cordial with me, man. Thank you. It's been a great conversation with you. I can't say it for everyone, but you've been fair. I will say that, you know, I'll let the crowd decide, but I everything that I claimed you just read. So I clearly think that shows degradation. I know we're going to disagree, but I do appreciate you being cordial with me, man. Thank you. God bless and have a good day, man.
Good night.